Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to share a true scary ghost story with you. This story comes from Vietnam. The story is called The Last Campfire. In the story, a boy named Lam goes on a camping trip with his friends. They pitched their tent and everything seemed fine until the middle of the night when odd things began to happen. Then suddenly Lam disappeared. This is the story of The Last Campfire. The last message. The mountain has no name. Local people call it the Nameless Mountain. It is about 30 kilometers from the town. A few days before going to the mountain, men found this place from an old online post. It doesn't have any reviews or a clear direction. Only a few blurry pictures and a line of text. The perfect place to be quiet. With a forest, they planned to go there for the weekend. And they would leave after work on Friday. After about 2 hours of driving on winding roads, they reached the foot of the mountain. It was already late afternoon, so they quickly set up camp. At 10 o'clock that night, the sky started to darken, but no one noticed. The sky was gray and cloudy, but they were too busy laughing, grilling meat, playing guitar, and singing. Then suddenly, the sky poured down rain. It was very heavy, cold, and as if it would never stop. This can't be good. They turned off the music, crawled into the tent, and sat close together. From then on, things started to go wrong. Things disappeared. About midnight, Ma and I discovered that the food bag had disappeared. Earlier, we had put it right at the tent door. Now, it was nowhere to be seen. At first, I thought Lam had hidden it, but he was also shocked. He had seen it earlier, but I saw it right at the tent door earlier. We turned on the flashlights to look around. No trace, no footprints, nothing blown away by the wind. There was only a big, long, cold, wet handprint on the sheet, and then the lighter, knife, spare battery. They all disappeared one by one, but no one said a word. No one left the tent, but the things kept disappearing. Mai started to tremble. Anne's face was pale. I tried to stay calm. I took out my phone. There was no signal. The others also checked their phones. None of them worked. The tent suddenly became very cramped and stuffy. I felt like something was watching us. I couldn't help but imagine some wild animal crawling into the tent, and I could hear its breath getting closer and closer. Then suddenly, there was a knock from outside the tent. It sounded like someone was knocking the tent, but it didn't belong to a living person. It was 2 a.m. The sound of heavy rain never stopped. We were huddled in the tent when a voice called from outside. "Anne, come out here for a bit." I was startled because Anne was sitting right next to me. Everyone turned to look at her. Anne was pale, tears welling up. Her mouth was moving, but she made no sound. She shook her head repeatedly. Greater than, "It's not me. I won't go out there anymore. No, it's not me." I stood up, walked a short distance out of the tent, and shined the light outside. No one was there, but a certain smell, fishy, like wet blood, wafted through the air. When I turned back, Anne's shadow in the tent was still sitting silently, but no one knew that one of the group had disappeared. The one who left didn't return. About 15 minutes later, Lam said he needed to go to the bathroom, took out the flashlight and went behind the tent. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, then 20 minutes passed, nothing like Lam coming back. Then took out the flashlight and searched. No calls, no response. Only a small trail of water extending into the forest. I ran after Min, but the trail of water led to a hollow in the ground. It looked like someone's footprints had been standing there for a long time. I shone the flashlight around until the light swept over a tree trunk. I saw Lam's flashlight stuck upside down on a 4-meter-high tree branch. Impossible, unless someone climbed up the tree and put it there. Anne in the tent started crying. I held my hand and whispered. Later than I heard breathing behind me. I heard it so clearly, Anne. Suddenly, another voice came from outside. It was Anne's voice. Greater than, "Don't go out there. Don't go out there. I beg you, don't go out there." After a while, the voice stopped. Inside the tent, Anne was still shaking her head. "It's not me. It's not me. I swear, it's not me. Please believe me. Don't go out there. Please. I beg you. Please don't go out there." We didn't know what to do. 5. The end. The last campfire. It wasn't dawn yet, but the rain didn't stop. We gathered our courage and decided to go down the mountain together. But when we stepped down, the tent had been torn apart by someone. Underneath the tent was a hollow with traces of dragging, wet footprints and crushed chicken bones. We didn't bring any chicken bones. I suddenly stopped. She looked toward the forest, her eyes wild, muttering, "Greater than there's land. Land is waiting." Land told me to stay one more night. I turned back. No one, just a shadow standing behind the tree, unusually tall, thin, and with a neck bent to one side. Men grabbed me. Run! We ran straight down the mountain, not daring to look back. As soon as we left the edge of the forest, the rain stopped. The sky gradually brightened. The phone signal returned. We called people to come and look for it. They never found Lamb. No body, no blood, only on the highest branch. Lamb's coat, hanging like a hanged body. Later, the locals said that place was forbidden. In the past, a whole army camp passed by, set up tents, and then a whole squad went missing. They said that when it rained, the gate at the foot of the mountain would open, and that thing would be allowed to walk around. It called people in the same voice as their friend. The last message. When I got back to the city, I opened my phone and found a strange recording. No one remembered having recorded it. In it was Me's voice, whispering, "Greater than Lamb is sitting next to me." I've been exploring since I was a child. Every holiday, my family would pile into our car and drive deep into the mountains. These trips felt more like adventures than vacations. I learned that mountains have secrets. I learned how to read their language. They speak in fog, rock, and rushing water. Mountains are wise. They are ancient. They watch humanity from above. When I was younger, I used to think the scariest thing about being in the woods was wild animals, getting lost or getting exhausted. Now I know the scariest thing is not being sure if the person next to you is still human. This happened last year, but I still can't bring myself to tell it. The only reason I am writing about it now is because I am no longer sure I am the only survivor. In early fall, I got an email from a stranger. There was no subject line, just one line. Want to see something no one has dared to show? Here are the coordinates. Along with that was a pair of coordinates that couldn't be found on Google Maps. Just woods. The Pennsylvania mountains. No names. No road. I invited 3 friends. Troy, my cameraman. Adventurous. Always ready. Lena, my ex. Good at positioning. Great with people. Adventurous too. And Mark, technician. In charge of drone, battery, GPS, everything electronic. We prepared carefully. 2 tents, 3 days of food, walkie-talkies, flycam, spare batteries, even a signal gun. But we weren't careful enough. The path leading into the forest had no name, just a red dirt trail winding through the old pine trees. I knew this meant we were deep in the mountains, but I didn't realize how deep until we reached the center of the path. Our compasses stopped working. The needle spun wildly and then stopped, regardless of direction. Electromagnetic, Mark guessed, but wasn't sure. The most remarkable thing was that the entire forest had no living sound. It sounded like firecrackers. Troy joked, "It's like walking into a horror movie." Nina was silent. She was rarely scared, but at that moment, her eyes were strange, as if something was watching from behind. And we couldn't turn around. Soon the sky grew darker and heavier. Soon fat raindrops began to fall. By late afternoon, it was raining hard. The forest was as dark as ink. We were about to pitch the tent when we ran into trouble. The stakes kept popping out. No matter how tight the rope was, it would come loose. Mark checked it wasn't the wind. It wasn't soft ground. Amidst the chaos, Lena called softly from the forest. There's something not far away. Hidden behind the trees was a silver-gray wooden shack with a low roof and a half-closed door. No one spoke. We looked at each other, as if waiting for someone to speak up for our feelings. Troy was the one who took the first step. The shack was very simple. A wooden table for thick folded blankets, a few worn chairs, and a large mirror hanging on the wall, covered with a black cloth. Lena whispered, "Who was here first? Why did you leave it so neatly?" Troy laughed. "Who cares? As long as it keeps you out of the rain." I noticed a line carved on the ceiling with a sharp object. "You are 4. You will stay 4." Mark pondered. "There are 4 of us and 4 blankets." That night I slept very lightly. I didn't know if it was because of the rain or something else. At 3 a.m., I woke up to knocking. Hard, cold, purposeful. We jumped. Mark turned on his flashlight and shone it out the window. No one. Troy opened the door a crack. No wind, no sound. But on the doorstep there was a bare footprint, muddy back inside the house. A single one? No one came out. No one came in. We closed the door, bolted it, sat still. Each of us waited for the other to say, "It must be a wild animal." But no one said anything. Early in the morning, I got up to go to the bathroom. I saw Mark standing in front of the mirror. The cloth covering the mirror had been removed. I called softly. He didn't turn around. As I approached, he whispered, "You were sleeping, but you were looking at yourself." I looked up. The mirror did not reflect me, only Mark. And another figure stood behind him, headless. I pulled Mark away. The cloth fell. The mirror was empty again. That morning we decided to return. We packed quickly. No one said a word about the mirror or the knocking. I didn't want to talk about it either. We made it back to the car without incident. The next morning, Troy was gone. The blanket was still folded. The shoes were in the same place. No trace, Lena cried. Mark and I searched the woods for hours to no avail. On the wall, someone had carved an X. Next to the old writing, I don't know when it appeared, but it was there. We left in chaos. We took nothing. We rested. Then I drove home. I ran through the woods for 5 hours without turning back. When I got to the road, I turned around. No cabin, no trail, nothing. 6 months later, one night I got an email. No subject, no sender. You left the cabin, but the cabin didn't leave you. Only 3 left. To this day, I'm not sure who the third person was. I'm not sure the Mark who came back that day was still the Mark. I'm not sure I'm still the same person. But if anyone reads this, don't look for the cabin because it's not in the woods. It's in the people who walked in and walked out. And the next story I want to tell you, I will never forget about that mountain area. So let's jump into this crazy story. I am Lucy Hollister, 29 years old. I am the only one who remembers the entirety of that fateful trip. A 5-night camping trip in an unnamed mountain range that has erased the memories of my entire family except me. In the summer of 2006, my father David, a veteran who had served in Eastern Europe, suddenly proposed a camping trip to coordinates provided by an old friend, which he called the untouched wilderness. No name, no satellite data, no landmarks, and the GPS signal went dead as soon as we entered the forest's edge. There was no wind, no birds, no living creatures, just trees standing still, as if listening. We set up camp next to a shallow stream. The water, clear, but never flowing. No smell, no movement, like a mirror. The first night, I heard my mother calling my name from outside the tent. 3 times, but she was asleep next to me. I didn't answer. I just opened my eyes wide and lay still in the thick darkness, my chest constricted as if by an invisible hand. The next day, my younger brother, Evan, pointed into the dense canopy and said, "There's a cabin over there. Someone's sitting inside." But no one could see anything but him. My mother wrote everything down in a travel notebook. Weather, location, route. But when she opened it that night, the words she'd written that morning had been replaced by a strange, ancient-looking symbol, as if someone or something had written over them. The second night, we heard someone walking around the camp. Each footstep stopped exactly outside our tent, and then knocked exactly 3 times. There was no answer, only Evan S. voice saying in his sleep, "Dante, answer when they call your name." The next morning, my father took me out to find firewood, just a few hundred meters from camp, and then he suddenly disappeared. I heard no screams, saw no traces, only the wind whining in my ears. I returned to camp in a panic, my mother trembling, Evan holding me and whispering, Dad didn't go anywhere. He was standing next to the tents. But it wasn't him. The third night, we stayed awake. My mother locked the tent, kept the children close to her. But at exactly 3:33 a.m., we all fell asleep without knowing why. Then we woke up. But we were no longer in the woods. We were sitting in an old wooden house, very similar to the house my grandmother had died in. On the table was a tray of cold rice. Next to it were 5 beeswax masks, 4 carved with the faces of each of my family members, and 1 blank with no name. Evan whispered, "This is the choice table." My mother looked up and saw a notebook hanging on the wall, a shiny black cover, on the first page of which read, "The Hollister Family." Wednesday night, the selection has begun. I remember screaming when my father walked into the room. But it was indeed my father. He was my father's body, but he had no face, just smooth white skin. His eyes were open at his temples, and his mouth was at his neck, moving constantly as he whispered in an inhuman voice. "One must take his place. One will remain. The other 3 will be erased." We woke up in a panic, sweating, my mother sobbing, Evan vomiting uncontrollably. And the most terrifying thing was, my father was back, lighting a fire outside the camp, as if he had never been. He didn't ask about last night. He didn't remember being missing. He didn't look anyone in the eye. He didn't blink. On the last day, we left the mountains, as if running away. On the way home, Mom opened a notebook to write down the coordinates, but the page was now black, and in the middle of the page was a single line, written in her own handwriting. "David Hollister's new version has been approved. The mountains will not need any more people for the next 12 years. We headed home. No one asked why we had been missing for almost a week. No newspaper reported it. No system had it. But I remembered. I was the only one who remembered, and I started searching the internet for clues. There was no place by that name, no mountains, no coordinates. But I started seeing sporadic posts. The night in Red Hollow. My friend changed completely. Hill 404. No one came back. The forest camp with the swap body. Is the rumor true? Each story seemed different, but they all spoke of the same thing. A mountain range not on official maps, where people could be replaced, where a normal family suddenly ceased to be themselves, where all phone, GPS cameras failed, and where every night was a game of survival. I began to notice patterns. These events occurred between July and September. They all mentioned something about a choice table and a ritual of sacrifice. Some talked of an extra-dimensional rift, others of mind control. Some of the witnesses managed to escape and return, but not unscathed. They were all suffering from multiple personality disorder, dementia, schizophrenia. They couldn't stop apologizing for their amnesia and for the damage they had caused their families and friends. Others simply disappeared, and those who did come back spoke of the same house with a black notebook, the choice table, and the personified entity that had spoken to them through their father. Some saw my mother, others saw their own mothers. Some said it was their brother who beckoned them, others their best friends. Some heard their own name, others the name of their father or their son, but many of them spoke of a childlike girl named Red Riding Hood, who would knock on the tents 3 times at night and whisper, "Do you want to play hide and seek?" Some of the witnesses claimed that it was their childlike selves who answered yes, and some claimed that the mountains gave them a choice: stay there forever, or go back to their world and cause as much destruction as possible. For those who chose to leave, they said the entity always chose the worst option. All the incidents culminated in 2018 and 2019 with dozens of reports of missing persons. But since then, everything has gone silent. The entity seems to have decided to rest. I searched everywhere, but I found no connection between the victims. They were all different ages, genders, nationalities. They had nothing in common except for their experiences in the mountains. For the past 6 years, I haven't stopped searching, reading everything I can get my hands on about interdimensional rifts, paranormal activity, hidden settlements, cults. I know every line, every word, and yet I feel that what I need to do is not write another book about the paranormal, but to go back and save the people who have gotten lost there. It's the only thing that makes sense in my life right now. I've told everything to my husband. He thinks I'm crazy. I've told my friends. They think I'm crazy. But I know what I have to do. I know the entity needs a human sacrifice, and I intend to become one. I have convinced myself that it is my fault that my family and all these other families were affected. It is my responsibility to put an end to this. And so I am going back to the mountains. No one knows where I am going, not even my husband, and I intend to keep it that way. I am taking the same backpack that I took as a child. Inside, I am putting the exact same things that I put in 2006. A lighter, a knife, a compass, a flashlight, some batteries, a pack of matches, a bit of cord, a bit of food, a bottle of water, and my mother's old diary. As soon as I am beyond the forest, I will not look back. When my phone goes off, I will not answer. When I hear footsteps, I will not turn around. And when someone calls my name, I will not reply. Now, if you hear someone say that they went camping in a place that no one has ever found and came back with no memory of what happened, don't ask questions. Don't try to find the coordinates. And if in your sleep you dream with your loved ones of a log cabin, a masked party, and a loved one watching you without blinking, then maybe the mountains are still looking for their next replacement. And maybe you already part of the party and Don T. Know it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.